so that they can access it. So, welcome to our webinar on the Settlement House amendments, and thank you for joining us this morning. I am Nadine Kajan, the Program Manager for the Settlement House contracts, and I will be co-presenting today with Michelle Scurry, Contract Manager from the Bureau of Contract Management. Like you all, we're very excited about the additional funding because of all the important work that you do with these funds. And in today's webinar, we will provide a general overview of the amendment process so you have an idea of what to expect. As I said, this will be recorded and I will send this out to all programs later today for those who could not attend or for your own future reference. There will be time for questions at the end, and we'll be happy to answer questions about the amendment process or any of the slides, but we ask that you please hold off on asking questions that are specific to your program. Instead, if you could email those questions to me so that you can be provided with a more detailed response that's specific to you. I will now pass this on to Michelle to take us through the first few slides. Thanks, Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. And as we get started, we'd like to talk a little bit about the funds that were received. The enacted New York State 24-25 budget includes increased funding for the Settlement House programs. The funding is effective as of 9/1/2024 for contract years 4 and 5. Contract budgets will increase. Award amounts have been determined using the funding formula approved in the original procurement. And for those that choose to accept the award, the affected contracts will require a formal amendment to add the additional funds to the contract budget. The funds can be used to continue to provide the same services and simply increase the number of people served. The funds can be used to increase the frequency of intensity or existing services, to increase staff wages, or you can add additional services to your offerings as long as those services are within the program outline for the Settlement House contract. That program outline is available to you via the solicitation of interest 1005 Settlement House program and can be provided to you upon request. So that solicitation would be the original procurement that you did respond to when you received your Settlement House contract. And again, if you need that for your reference, that can be provided to you upon request. The documents that will need to be revised. Every budget for every program that chooses to accept the award, that budget will need to be revised. So depending on the changes you wish to make, also the work plan and objective may need to be revised. For example, if you're adding services or adding program staff, you will also need to revise your work plan and budget. If you're just adding your money and you're going to keep your services basically the same as what they are now, only your budget will need to be revised.
So, accessing the amendment in CMS, you always will use Google Chrome to access CMS. You will log in to CMS with your my.ny.gov login credentials. Open the inbox, find your Settlement House contract number, and click on Amend in the task column. Revising the budget in CMS, the multi-year budget form can only be revised in the current stage tab under interactive documents as shown below. So you'll click on Update Details to revise the multi-year budget form January 2023. For the purposes of this amendment, revisions are to be made to budget years 4 and 5 only. The new budget totals for years 4 and 5 must include the increased amounts from the additional funds. For example, if you are receiving $100,000 in additional funds, Your increased amount for years 4 and 5 must include your previously approved annual budget amount plus $50,000 per year for a total increase of 100,000. If you are adding any new lines to the budget, remember to add a P for program or A for administrative, just as you did in your initial contract. Once complete, click Submit. Additional general budget development guidance videos are available at the link that you see below. To revise the budget narrative in CMS. So if you're adding any new lines to any budget category, a description must be provided in the narrative section, just as you did in the initial contract. Only add or update the narrative for changes directly related to the changes you made in the budget. So anything that is not changing should just remain as is. We ask that you please highlight the changes that you make in yellow for easier review. Once complete, click Submit. Entering the budget details on Attachment B Budget Summary. So to access Attachment B Budget Summary, you're going to stay right in that same tab, Current Stage, and you'll see Enter Budget Details on the lower right, and you click on that, and a blank interactive Attachment B Budget Summary document will open. You will enter the budget details as follows. For budget years 1 and 2, reflect your actual spending for those years. Budget year 3 should reflect your current approved budget amounts. Budget years 4 and 5 should reflect the amended totals that include the additional funds. On the local share match breakdown page, which is essentially the second page, please be sure to enter the amount of OCFS funds, and the total. Once the Attachment B budget summary is satisfied, the complete button will be available, enabled for selection, as shown below, which is not a super clear screenshot, but you can at least see where that button is located on the lower right. Revising the work plan and the objectives, also known as the number of people to be served annually. You may need to also revise your work plan and objectives if you are adding new positions or adding new services. Any changes in the work plan must fall within the program outline for Settlement House contracts that Michelle just mentioned. And there is no interactive work plan document in CMS for you to work off of. Instead, you will use your latest work plan to make any revisions. Again, please highlight your changes in yellow for easier review. Changes or addendums to the work plan and or the objectives need to be in PDF format before uploading. And to upload, you're just going to click on Uploaded Documents tab and then click Upload Document as shown below.
So next we will begin discussing claiming. Budget year 3 will be ending on August 31st, 2024. Quarter 3 claims are now due. Please work to have all outstanding claims submitted as soon as possible. Claims against the additional funds cannot be processed until after your amendment is approved by the Office of the State Comptroller. Claims, however, can continue to be processed against the originally approved contract amounts. This does not include any claims against the use of additional funds. And now vendor responsibilities. We're going to ask vendors to begin to confirm that all con users and consigs are up to date. If you find that updates are needed to your organization's con user and consig worlds in CMS, Please complete the CMS authorization form and send to Nadine at the email address provided here. Complete the amendment request spreadsheet and also send that to Nadine. Now's the time to be confirming your vendor responsibility questionnaire and making sure that is up to date. Your entity is required to complete a vendor responsibility questionnaire. We recommend that you file or recertify the VRQ only via the New York State VinRep system. To enroll in and use the New York State VinRep system, or to obtain the paper form if that's what you choose, please see the VinRep system instructions at the web link provided here, or go directly to the VinRep system online. For direct VinRep system user assistance, the OSC Help Desk may be reached at 866-370-4672 for a toll-free number, or the local number here for the Albany area, 518-408-4672, or you can reach out for assistance by contacting the help desk at IT service desk at osc.state.ny.us. If you have recently certified a questionnaire and it continues to be accurate, there is no need to complete a new questionnaire at this time. This is the time that you will also begin to confirm your Charity Bureau registration status. Any payee or vendor who wishes to do business with New York State must be exempt or current in their charity's registration filing with the New York State Attorney General's office. All charitable organizations operating in New York State are required by law to register and file annual financial reports with the Attorney General's office. This includes any organization that conducts charitable activities, holds property that's used for charitable purposes, or solicits financial or other contributions. Please visit the New York State Attorney General's website for further information and required forms. Workers' comp and disability is also something that should be updated at this time. New York state law requires that all businesses contracting with the state carry and maintain both workers' comp and disability insurance benefits for its employees. Please ensure that both workers' comp and disability insurance certifications are provided. Please also note that the New York State Office of Children and Family Services, located at 52 Washington Avenue, Rensselaer, New York, must be listed as the requesting entity. For additional information regarding workers' comp and disability benefits requirements, please refer to the New York State Workers' Compensation Board website, and that web address has been provided here. So for your workers' comp certification requirement, each new contract, contract renewal, or amendment, the state must obtain one of the following forms from the contractor to prove the contractor has appropriate workers' compensation insurance coverage. The forms listed below are the only forms accepted as proof of workers' compensation insurance coverage. For disability insurance, again, each new contract renewal or amendment for the state, we must obtain one of the following forms from the contractor to prove the contractor has the appropriate disability insurance coverage. And again, these forms listed below are the only forms accepted as proofs of disability benefits insurance. So for next steps, we're just going to summarize that right now vendors need to be deciding how your program will use the additional funds. You should be confirming the roles of your con user and consig, making sure they're up to date, submitting the CMS authorization form if needed. You should be completing the amendment request spreadsheet and sending that in to Nadine. Begin working on budget revisions in CMS, if applicable, and begin working on revisions to your work plan and objectives. Confirm your vendor responsibility questionnaire is up to date. Be confirming that your Charities Bureau registration status is up to date, and also confirm that your workers' comp and disability benefits insurance certifications are up to date. So at this point, I'm going to turn things back over to Nadine.
Thank you, Michelle. So, that is the basic overview of how this process works. Does anybody have any questions at this time? And also, before I ask that, the amendment request spreadsheet is going to be emailed out to you today. And you will basically just be entering who your con user and consigs are and sending it back. And this is what allows your amendment to be set up in CMS. So that will go out to you. I will also resend the CMS authorization form. And as I said, the recording will also go out to everyone. So I'm seeing in the chat, Crystal is asking, is there a due date for the amendment? So the effective date will be September 1st. So that's the date that we are all shooting for. We know that it may go a little bit beyond that, but there,
So let me just clarify, Nadine.
thank you.
The September 1, 2024 date is the effective date of the funds. The funds cannot be spent before that date. So in direct response to, is there a due date for the amendment? There is not necessarily a due date. However, please understand that you cannot make any claims against the additional funds until your amendment is approved. What we would like to see is to have all the amendments approved by the September 1st date. So at the beginning of that quarter, you can begin spending your additional funds and there's no hiccups in claiming for later. So there is a process that where if you happen to not have your amendment approved by September 1st, you can continue to provide services under your current approved agreement. You can continue to claim against your current approved budget. You will not be able to claim against the additional funds until the amendment is approved. So while there is no due date, time is of the essence to allow for your spending.
Thank you, Michelle. And I'm seeing in the chat, Stephen is asking, excuse me, so this will not affect the quarter 4 claims, correct? And that is correct. And Christina's asking, by completing the amendment request spreadsheet, are we accepting the amendment? Yes. If you are not accepting it, you can just let me know that. Send me an email. But once you send that request spreadsheet, that's telling us that you want to pursue the additional funds, and the amendment will then be set up in CMS, which will then allow you to access the documents. Is there a recommended date by which we complete all of our next steps to ensure approval? I would say just do things as quickly as you can. Oftentimes there is some back and forth between you and me and BCM. So we try to build in some time for that. If there are questions that you have specific to your program prior to starting that, just give me a call or shoot me an email and I will call you back. Could do a WebEx if you needed that, to figure out what exactly it is that you want to do with your additional funds and if that's within the parameters of the program outline. And let me see another
And
question.
if I could just add a little bit more to that,
Please do.
um, understand that each of the vendors that it chooses to accept the award during the contracting process, you will go through what is called a vendor responsibility review. The vendor responsibility review is probably the most time consuming part of the amendment process. That is the time where unforeseen can happen. Nothing that will cause you to not be able to get the funds. It just kind of draws the process out while we research and gather information on information that was found during the review. So these items that are mentioned here in the presentation, vendor responsibility review, workers' comp and disability, charity registration, um, it is so important right now ahead of time to make sure those things are up to date, because these are the three areas where things tend to get lagged up in the contracting process while we deal with working out issues. So the hope is, if there are any issues, to get them all ironed out prior to us getting to the point of vendor responsibility review, so that we can get through that part of the process as quickly and seamlessly as possible. So there it isn't a deadline that we can give you. Everybody's situation is unique. The idea here is to encourage you guys to get started as soon as possible so we can help with any issues that come up and just streamline the process as much as we can.
Thank you for that, Michelle. And can we submit for invoice or wait for additional funds? So since the additional funds won't affect quarter 4, you would just submit that as you normally would. That claiming period is June 1st to August 31st. So you would just submit that as normal. The additional funds will not affect that. Anything else that you can think of that we could clarify? Okay, Michelle, is there anything else that you wanted to add, underscore?
No, but I just see another comment or question come through in the chat.
How long will it take to approve the amendment once submitted? You want to take that one, Michelle?
Sure. So again, it's hard to really quote a time frame. However, if everything is in place, if charity reg is up to date, workers' comp and disability we receive and it's up to date, vendor responsibility questionnaires are up to date, the actual from the time you submit the amendment for contract approval could take 3 to 4 weeks at the latest, at the latest. Um, and that's assuming any issues don't come up, and that is an estimate. So there's really no hard and true deadline that we can be held to, because we have to consider the timeframes that it takes for our control agencies to do their reviews. Part of the process is, after your amendment is reviewed here in-house at OCFS, it will also go to the Attorney General's office. It will also go to the Office of the State Comptroller. So there are parts of this process that are totally out of our hands. Um, Although, of course, AG and OSC do review every contract in the state. So they do have their processes on their own and their ways to streamline and expedite. But they also have other priorities that at times will come in over approving contracts. So with that said, 3 to 4 weeks, I would give an estimate, but there's always an outside opportunity to that. It could be shorter or longer.
Michelle, there's a question about OCFS having direct access to the charities and VenRep questionnaire.
So I'm not quite sure what you mean. What's do having direct access? We part of our vendor responsibility review is to request from the Charity Bureau the status of filings. So that does not give us direct access, but we do request a status. That does take about a week or so for us to get back from them. We send them over groups at a time, and they will confirm for us whether your charity filings are up to date. There is contact information in the slideshow where you, as the vendor, can reach out to the Charity Bureau directly yourself to confirm and just ask, the status of your filings. Where are you at? What do you need to do? If you don't have that information available to you already, and they will let you know where you are when your current registration expires, what you do what you need to do to recertify. The AG's office can talk you through that. As far as the vendor responsibility questionnaire, we do have the ability to go in and view the questionnaire. However, your questionnaire is supposed to be recertified. I want to say right now, I think it's maybe every 6 months. At one time, it was annually to be recertified every year. So it's up to you to go in to look at your questionnaire to see if the last time it was recertified, and if it wasn't within the last 6 months, you should probably go ahead and look everything over, provide any updates, and recertify. Now we can go in and look to see if the VRQ has been certified or not. That's part of our review. However, at that time, don't want to give you the impression that you're going to be under the gun. You're not going to be under the gun, but at that time in our process, you've already submitted your amendment. It's already going through the process. So if we get to that point in the review and realize that um, some update is needed on information that's been provided, or if the recertification date is too old and we need the vendor to go back in and recertify at that time, that's going to take time during the actual amendment process. That's going to delay your processing time. So that's why we're asking everybody to do it now. So I'm not sure what the question means as far as, do we have access? We can view, and we do view and review. We can't make changes for you. And I think it would be a lot for us to take on going in to look at everybody's questionnaire and then trying to reach out to see who's up to date and who's not. That's a um access that you all do have. So I hope that I've addressed that question. If not, maybe you could respond with some clarity or email Nadine your question in writing, and we can get down to the bottom of what it is you're really needing to know.
Hi, Michelle. That was my question.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Actually, it's because other agencies they do ask us to email them the vendor rep questionnaire or our Char 500 filing, and we are current on both. But since you guys haven't like demanded or requested the actual forms just to make sure that we are up to date, so that was my question. If I had to like provide you with both filings, or if you can just go in and check that we are up to date. So if you have access to do that, that was what I was wondering. Thank you
Okay,
so
so
much.
yes, we will have the access to go in during that part of the process and confirm that your filings and your VRQ are up to date. And at that time, we would provide you with any questions that we have. So yes, no, you do not have to send in your VRQ. You do not have to send in your Char 500 filing.
And I'm seeing a question from Ursula. And yes, you can use the additional funds to increase your staff salary. And I'm just going through to see if we answered everything. Crystal asks, is the direct is 15%? Question mark. I'm not sure what you're asking there, Crystal. And you can unmute yourself if you're still on and would like to ask that question. I'm not sure what that is referring to.
So if we could get that question in writing and we can respond to Crystal, I think she's talking about her direct and indirect cost and how that's calculated.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, let's get that question in writing and we can definitely respond to Crystal.
And Christina just asked, is there a cap on the indirect cost rate?
I would have to refer to the contract template for that. So again, that's your questions on your indirect cost, please submit those in writing because I need to refer back to the contract to give an accurate response for that.
Okay. And those can all come to me. Anything else that anyone can think of at this time? Can you use funds to increase percentage of employee salary allocated to the grant? That's a yes, right, Michelle?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And of course, we know you'll probably think of other questions. Um, and you can always feel free to reach out at any time and we will get you those answers. Okay, Kathy is asking, we currently have a program included in our work plan and objectives, but would like to add a salary position. Do we just need to update the budget or will the work plan need to be updated as well? So Kathy, we can talk about that. But if you're adding personnel to provide a service, then that would necessitate a work plan revision, possibly the objectives, but not necessarily. So if you're adding new staff, you would need to speak to what that staff's responsibilities would be in your work plan, just as you did in the initial executed contract. Oh, you're so welcome, Hindi. And again, apologies for the mix up this morning. Um, I'm so glad that so many of you were able to make it today. And Michelle, anything else that you have?
I do not. Just I can't see the questions in the chat. I can see them pop up on my screen when they come in. I don't see them listed. So as long as we've addressed any questions that have come in that are not contract specific to anybody's program, I think that is it.
Okay. And as I said, I will send the slide deck, I will send the recording, and I will send the amendment request form and the CMS authorization forms to you all so you have those. So please, like I said, don't feel like you're bothering me. If you have questions, reach out and we're in it together. So thank you all so very much and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.